Hi everyone, this is Ryan Ladd and I'll be doing another 10-minute resume review. As always, if you'd like for me to do one of your resumes, look in the description below for a link to my website, contact me and I'll be happy to do a review of your resume. So this is a resume of a student who is starting to look at internships, and as I've said before in other videos, I'm not an expert on internships, but the good news is hiring managers aren't unique when they're looking for interns versus anyone else, so my advice for anyone looking for a job will probably hold true. So let's take a look, and right off the bat, my first impressions are, in terms of formatting and everything else, this is a nice, clean, and simple layout. I do note that it is a one-page format, and as always, the one-page format is a myth. You can use more than one page and no one's going to penalize you. If you do decide to use more than one page, what you do want to make sure is that that first page is the most impactful. That way, if they find something that's really good there, they might look at your other pages for even more validation that you're the right choice. Looking ahead, let's see. I see a link for what could be a GitHub or LinkedIn. If you're going to use those things, there's no problem with that, but what you do want to make sure of is, at least with your GitHub, any public repositories that you list, someone's going to look at them and judge you for the code that you wrote on their standards, not yours. So make sure that the repos that you do put in your GitHub profile are immaculate. And that's a really hard thing to do because you don't know what the other person is going to look for. You don't know their standards. You don't know if they think the number of spaces you have for indentation is sane or monstrous. You don't know how it's going to be judged, so be careful when you put it in. LinkedIn's a lot easier. It can be a duplication of your resume and profile and network, but you don't need to worry about that. Now, let's get into some of the other parts. So in general, you have the right parts for a resume that I would look for. You have your education, you have skills, experience, projects, and awards. The order is probably different than what I would recommend. So education needs to come dead last, and it takes up too much space. So when we talk about education, the only things you really need to list is where you went to school, what your degree is, and the dates. You don't need to list GPAs, you don't need to list anything else there, so it can take a lot less space because education is not what people are going to judge you on. All they really want to know when they're looking at a resume is, could you do this job? And education only says, what did you learn in school? So we don't want to emphasize that, and your education takes prime real estate away from answering the question, could you do this job? So we move that last. So on your resume, I would recommend first, education needs to come dead last. The good news is the rest can move right on up. So skills would go up, then experiences, honors, projects, then education. Now when we look at skills, this is a little thin. I'm sure you have more skills than this. You have done more development work. You have learned more stuff. So when you list your skills, you want to focus not only on the languages and technologies that you know, but you also want to focus on the coursework that you've been studying. Are you learning things about object-oriented programming, automated testing, and things like that? List that down. You'll have a good idea of the things you should be listing, provided you do know something and have used them, based on the job description that you'll see from the company itself. So look at that, put those in here, and drop your ratings. If you're going to put you're a 5 out of 5 out of Python, and I've been doing Python for 10 years, you're putting yourself in the position to know more than me, and that is not a good position to put yourself in. So drop ratings. It is not for you to say how good you are. You want to let that be sort of a mystery to unfold through the interview. Don't go ahead and put yourself into a corner and saying you're an expert the first year you're in school. That's going to put an interviewer in the position to try to prove you're wrong. Now for your experiences, the first thing I see is that there's no relevant development experience, and that's not surprising. You're a student. But that doesn't mean that your non-development experience isn't valuable. So I'm glad you have it here. What I would like for you to think about as you put down your non-development experience is, think about the qualities of a really good software developer in a team in a company. Do they work well with others? How do they handle a crisis? When there's a crunch, what do they do? When there's a problem to be solved, how do they respond? These kind of general qualities beyond putting hands on a keyboard and programming are valuable in every company. So in each of these experiences, what I want you to think about are, how can you emphasize these general qualities that are really useful for anyone at any company and put those first. And I want you to de-emphasize the activities you did because they're unique to that job, and I want you to focus on instead how those qualities of being a good team player, of being able to collaborate, of taking initiative, of finishing projects, of all that good stuff how those qualities that you had led to some kind of interesting result. Because once someone sees that you do more than go through the motions, that really good things happen when you're done, that's going to stand out to everybody who reads your resume, as opposed to just saying, you know, if I worked at McDonald's and I flipped burgers, no one's really going to care. But if people remarked that the food that I cooked was better than every other McDonald's, great. What was my attention to detail, my standard of quality that I held to that put me above everyone else? That's what you want to emphasize. So try to see if you can emphasize what results that you have from these non-development jobs based on your qualities that would put you above everyone else. Now for your awards and honors, this is great. I like, when possible, to have some kind of an award or honor section, and it should be fairly early in the resume, because right off the bat it can give a strong impression that, you know, you're not just a run-of-the-mill person, you are slightly above everyone else, that you take the extra time, effort, and discipline to go above and beyond. 1 to 3 is right on, so you've got that. You don't need to spend a whole lot of time explaining what they are and why they're relevant, because awards are so unique, no one will understand what they are. So as long as you list them, that's fine. And I think what you have is pretty good. So that's great that you have it, because it shows you're not just a regular old person, you're an award winner. So for projects are great because it shows that you're applying your knowledge. When you do projects, there are a couple things I want you to think about emphasizing here. One of them is that you can emphasize the technologies you used, which is great, but you also need to have that in your skills section. So you don't need to duplicate if you want, but I want you to think about, when you do your project, you can summarize what the project was, but what I really want you to focus on here is, what are the unique challenges that you solved through that project? What are the new capabilities you have acquired through that project? And if that project has gone more than just a learning experience and experiment, what were the results of it? If it went to market, if people use it, how many? What do they say about it? Show that you can bring things to a close. So for some of these, you have it, like the advent of code, you've got some of that stuff about some of the challenges you did. For the game app, you're talking about doing file I/O and boundary detection. These are cool. They're showing some of the capabilities you've developed. Try to refocus them on those unique challenges and new skills that you developed through the project. And if one of them is particularly immaculate that you want to link to in GitHub, that would be the place to put it. But otherwise, this is a good starting off resume, clean format and everything else. What I'd like you to focus on is reordering some things, and try to focus on, in your experience, what are these qualities that these jobs are emphasizing in you, these strengths that they're going to bring out, and what results were you able to show even if these weren't development jobs. In the math tutor, could you talk about how many students you were able to mentor at the same time, showing your ability to juggle multiple things? Could you talk to them about what results they were able to achieve through your ability to coach people through new topics, just like you would teach a new developer if you were a senior developer in ways of coding? In your projects, try to emphasize how these projects have grown your capabilities. What capabilities did you grow in with each of these? So with that, I want to close and say that's my sort of 10-minute take on this resume. It's off to a really good start, and with a little bit of refinement, I think you'll find you'll land more interviews. As always, thank you for watching. Down in the description, you can find a link to my website where you can contact me with any of your career questions. You can find coupons to my book on everything you need to know about getting a job, and of course, reach out to me with your career questions that I will happily answer in a video, or review one of your resumes in 10 minutes or less. I'm Ryan Latta, and thank you for watching.